Welcome to the Invisible India podcast. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Abhishek. We are a cross-cultural couple doing life in India, exploring the lesser-known mysteries of Indian culture,
Interviewing fascinating figures who have chartered new territories, and sharing life as we raise our multicultural family amongst the complexities of modern Indian life.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
How are you today, honey?
I am doing fine.
So we wanted to talk today a little bit about Thailand, and there are 800 million podcasts out there about why Thailand is so amazing, the food, the tourism, exotic sites, animals, the ocean, mountains, amazing plant life, historic sites, and temples. But these are mostly for Westerners and people who don't necessarily live in the region. Basically, we wanted to just take some time to talk about traveling to Thailand from an Indian perspective.
Yeah. There's some common things, of course, between all the travels that happen in Thailand and what people like or don't like. But there are some specific things that Indians need to be aware about and Indians need to know before they go to Thailand. And that would apply also to other South Asian people, just the taste of food, etc., and culture that is Thailand, and how similar it is to India and how different it is. So it's just interesting to talk about that because being there with Westerners and being there with Indians is a bit different experience. So
Yeah.
And that too depends upon if you're first generation Indian, like young Indian, sort of globalized, urbanized, versus if you are more traditional Indian. So all that plays into it.
Yeah, so we're going to share a bit from both perspectives. You know, if you're Indian American, Indian Canadian, if you're Indian Malaysian, whatever, you know, there are certain things that might cross cultures. There are certain things that might be similar cultural points or needs that you have that we feel like we might be able to add a little bit about. So we're going to cater this podcast to Indian people or South Asian people. You know, as the Indian middle class has more and more disposable income, trips abroad are more of a possibility. You know, before traveling abroad was kind of for wealthy people or Westerners, but now being able to travel is becoming more and more accessible. Not to everyone, but it's becoming more and more accessible to a huge population, a much larger population. And we wanted to share, Thailand is actually a really hot spot for Indians.
Because you don't need a visa to go there.
Yeah, you don't need a visa.
Arrival. But actually, you do need a visa. You just need a visa on arrival. You need a visa on arrival for Indian population. I believe you could apply for visa before going there in India, but it's a lot more difficult or it's just more tedious process. I was advised against it. So if you are planning to travel to Thailand, it's probably best to just get a visa on arrival, and it's usually given for 2 weeks only. Please do not overstay. If you're an Indian person and you're traveling into Thailand, do not stay more than 2 weeks without prior permission. Right now, this is 2019, there is something going on where they're waiving your tourist visa fee, but usually you have to pay like 1,000 or 2,000 baht, which ends up being 2,000 rupees or something like that.
It's like about double the amount of rupees. So like, let's say 20 baht would be about 40 rupees.
Yeah,
or
somewhere around.
I mean,
a bit more.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a slight bit more than the double. I mean, visa-wise, I think just be aware it's usually given for 14 days and to pay for it.
So Thailand is a hot spot for Indians, but there is a lot that can go wrong. And we wanted to share some of our experiences to help other people. So a little bit of background. We visit Thailand every year, and I've been 4 times. You've been 3 times. And we stay for a minimum of 2 weeks and have visited a number of areas.
Some friends there, but mostly tourism.
And we have visited a number of areas in Thailand. So this last time we took your parents, Abhishek's parents, who had not been to Southeast Asia before, but had a desire to go and to try something new and see something new. So we had some learnings that we wanted to share, and we're certainly not experts, but we can share what we've learned.
Right. One of the topics is food. Bangkok is considered the capital of street food. It is supposed to be like the queen of foods. I mean, I think they have been ranked like one of the best places for to eat in the world.
Yeah.
Constantly. So they are. The only issue with that is that the type of food that Thailand offers and the fare that they have is sort of East Asian based, right? Like it is not South Asian based. So what happens with that there is a use of different kind of spices, different kinds of utensils or silverware. What I mean is like the way it's prepared is different, and the way it tastes is quite different from what Indians are used to eating. May that be vegetarian or non-vegetarian, may that be North Indian, South Indian, East Indian, West Indian. Only people I think who might resonate with that naturally might be people from the Northeast India. So one of the things is that the noodles, right? For example, the noodles. Noodles came to Thailand from China, from the Chinese people there. So a lot of stuff has noodles or has either in soup base or in
like
dry
broth.
Yeah. So all that stuff is not very popular in India. Like soup based, that it doesn't have much spice, but there's noodles in it, and then there's meat and a little bit of vegetables. That is not as popular food in India. So a lot of Indians, especially traditional Indians who are like just trying to eat something that's palatable, may struggle in Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the rice is there as far as carbs are concerned. Yes, there's rice and there's noodles. What goes with those things is not always easy to eat for Indians.
So it's, a problem for, I would say, a lot of people who are Hindu or Muslim. And if you're a vegetarian, especially, it can be challenging. But we have some tips. So halal is available in many places, especially the large cities, but you have to look for it. I saw there were several Arabs who were asking around, halal, and you can find it, but you have to look.
Near Nana and Asok.
In Bangkok.
Mm-hmm. The BTS stations there, which is, if you're going to Bangkok, you cannot escape Asok and Nana. But yeah, there's a sizable Arab community and Indian community.
Mm-hmm.
So you could find more halal food there if you like halal food, or if you are practicing Muslim and you observe those things. There is that there if you want to eat your home food there.
So first, let's start with vegetarians. There are vegetarian dishes in Thai cuisine. Abhishek's mother is a very strict vegetarian, and I'm also vegetarian, but I'm not as strict about sauces or if it's cooked in the same container as some meat or something that it was cooked previously with some meat in the same container. I'm not as strict about that. So fried rice with no egg is something good to ask for, and no fish sauce. It's very difficult to kind of get away from the fish sauce in Thailand. One thing that we found is that the vegetables, I think a lot of Indian people will find undercooked, because that's just how they prepare the vegetables in Thailand. When you're having any kind of fried rice or noodle, the vegetables are not as cooked as we do in India. हम लोग इंडिया में एकदम उसका हरियाली मारते हैं खाना पका के हम लोग बहुत ज़्यादा पकाते हैं सब्जी को. वहाँ पे इतना नहीं पकाते हैं. They leave it a little bit like थोड़ा सा कच्चा छोड़ते हैं. That was a big struggle for your mom, especially. She was saying, हम चिल्का खा रहे हैं. Felt like she was just eating a peel of vegetable, and she was really struggling with that. So undoubtedly, vegetables be undercooked. Just prepare yourself for that. My advice is just peel the skin off and eat it, palatable for you. Local tofu is also delicious, although it's nothing like the tofu or soya paneer that we get in India, or dairy paneer. It's nothing like that, so don't even really compare it in your mind. TripAdvisor has vegan restaurants if you're a strict vegetarian and if you don't want stuff cooked in the same vessel. We met someone in the airport who literally packed a whole bag of biscuits and bhujia because they were strict veg, and they didn't want to eat anything that was cooked in the same vessel as meat or fish. And if you're listening, hi friends, it was nice to meet you. For people like that, it's going to be really difficult. My advice, if you're really strict about what vessel, what pot your stuff was cooked in, then you can get an Airbnb instead of a hotel and bring some spices and dal with you from India. And once you're at an Airbnb, you can
Or
cook.
any other kind of homestay.
Yeah, homestay or, something that you have your own kitchen. And once you're there, you can cook for yourself at least once a day so that you don't starve the whole time. You'll find a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables in the market, and Thailand is known for their amazing fresh fruits, and they have a variety of vegetables, so try them. Don't starve. Don't be afraid to just try some of that. But that would really help if you are really strict veg and you're terrified to get fish sauce
And
on your
I've
food.
not eaten all
Then
different kinds.
just cook your own stuff in an Airbnb.
I've not tried all different kinds of Thai food yet. We've tried enough. We've been there 4 times, so we've tried different types. But there is North Thai food, there is South Thai food, and there are probably other types of Thai food. And there is also Chinese influence, and there is Malay influence. So there's basically, as far as religious influence is concerned, there is Buddhism, there is Islam, there is Hinduism, there is, of course, all other major religions there. So the food that's popular in those cultures and those geographic locations are brought into Thailand, and it influences the taste. But in general, what's considered Thai food is what we're talking about.
If all else fails, worst case scenario, you can just go to an Indian restaurant and you can find something that
Or a
you
Pakistani restaurant.
you can eat. Yeah, Pakistani or Bangladeshi. Even if you're in a big city, you can. Generally, even a lot of the restaurants will be labeled Indian restaurant, even if it's like Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Nepalis, even.
If you don't want to eat food that's cooked in a kitchen that cooks meat, then you have to ask if this is fully vegetarian kitchen. Of course you don't have to ask that. You can just look at their menu, and if they are not a vegetarian restaurant, then you probably cannot eat there.
Yeah, there are several vegan restaurants, especially in the big cities, and that would be safe.
But vegan restaurant, the only issue with vegan restaurant is that you may not like the food, the taste of the food. Vegan restaurants are designed for Western crowd.
That's true.
And you're not going to like a lot of things because there will be no dahi or doodh, and there will be no
masala.
Yeah, a vegan restaurant is for Western folk.
It's for salad khane wale log ke liye. So do you want to talk about the non-veg selection a bit? What kind of specific things people can find that would be palatable for?
One thing is, of course, everything is visible. Not visible. Everything is available, but the issue is not what is available. The issue is in what form they're available. That is one thing that I noticed there. You may not have ever seen or experienced meat in those forms. So there is fish balls. That's very popular in different types of broth. And especially on street food, this is one of the most popular street food that you will see people eating for breakfast and for dinner. Mm-hmm. So it is lots of, what do you call it, sprouts or white sprouts?
Yeah,
beet
sprout. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beet sprout, noodles. So there are 3 or 4 kinds of noodles, but usually the white noodle, or there is also something called tom kha or tom yum. So there is all these these things. There are sometimes those soups are a little crunchy. They add crunchy thing on top. Other times they don't add the crunchy. But basically they have either fish ball or pork ball, but you can also get it with chicken and beef and all these things. So of course, it's a meat-eating country, so you have to kind of be able to stomach what other people are eating around you. If you do not visit Thailand if you cannot stomach that, or just restrict yourself in staying in a more sattvic Vaishnav type of hotel, because if you visit any place, even if they are serving you food, people will be eating all other kinds of meats around you.
Yeah. And everything smells kind of like fish. Like the air just smells kind of fishy when you go to a restaurant. So if you get really sick to your stomach from meat smell, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for you.
Yeah, and also, of course, alcohol is everywhere. Unlike India, everyone almost drinks beer. alcohol. Like you would see like workers and bike taxis and other taxi workers and everyone like getting together in the evening at night, and they're all drinking and eating street food. Like many people don't probably have kitchens, or they have very small kitchen that they cook in. I don't know. I've never been to lots of homes, but from what I've read, many Thai people actually eat several times a week outside, which is not an Indian practice. It is slowly becoming in India more popular to eat out on a constant basis, but home cooked meal is still considered the best meal in India. And everybody talks about their mom is cooking and their food that's you should always eat at home and such. But in Thailand, I don't think there is anything like that. You probably are going to get the same food at home or outside. But I may be wrong, so you correct me. Just email us if you're Thai listening to this and you think differently. Educate us. But otherwise, I think that's the case.
And it's pretty clean. The street food, it's not like Indian street food where you're taking your life in your hands. It's much cleaner than you would get. So I don't know exactly why that is, but it just is.
There was a scare a couple of years ago, or was that last year, when there was an order that went out all over Bangkok that they will curb the street food, and that threw everyone in panic. It hasn't happened. In some areas they have cleared the roads, because there was this thing about like being health hazard or whatever, because they cook it on the street and such. But compared to India, Pakistan, Nepal, I've never been to Sri Lanka, but I've never been to Pakistan either. But what I can imagine, like, it is cleaner than other South Asian countries.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have to worry about the hygiene as much.
Yeah.
It's just that the meat products and the taste of the food is something that you have to think about.
So I think, there are also a bunch of chicken dishes, prawn, fish.
Yeah.
One thing is the fish is mostly sea fish. And so people who are used to eating Indian, like river fish, rehu and such, it's totally different flavor. So try it out. If you don't like it, though, just be prepared. It's different. Pad Thai is always delicious. They're coconut-based curries. Masaman curry, Panang curry, green curry, red curry, yellow curry are nice to try. If all else fails, go to Indian food. As Abhishek was saying, Nana in Bangkok is where a lot of the Indian and Bangladeshi restaurants, and in Chiang Mai, which is in northern Thailand, in the night market is where you can find a few halal places and an Indian restaurant or two.
Yeah, night markets are everywhere.
Yeah.
Language and culture, the other topic we can cover.
Yeah.
I mean, language is very tonal. Like, it is unlike anything that's in India. So, but it is rooted in Sanskrit language of Indian subcontinent, and a lot of words that you hear in Thailand is actually from Sanskrit. First place where you will land is Suvarnabhumi, which is Suvarnabhumi in Hindi, which means golden land. So there's words like that all over the place. There is Hindi, Sanskrit, basically Sanskrit words in Thai language, but they're pronounced so differently because the tonal language that you will actually miss it almost every time. You wouldn't even know that this is Sanskrit. Because it's not pronounced the way we pronounce Sanskrit. So as far as pronunciation is concerned, for greeting people, the way they say hello is sawadika, and sawadika is for girls. When girl is saying sawadika, for guys it says sawadika.
But the tone is very different. So
yeah, it's not like that.
For women, it would be sawadika.
Yeah, sawadika. And then guys also have the same tone. It's sawadika.
Yes.
So, and then also thank you is kapun ka for women.
Yeah, kapun ka. And sometimes people would say ka.
Yeah, ka also means yes.
Yes, and thank you.
And kapun kap is for men.
Unlike India, people really say thank you all the time, and they really do, like we do namaste, it's like they actually do it excessively compared to what we do in India. Like,
and they actually close their hands.
They actually put their hands
together.
Every time. They will, whatever, even if you're at a restaurant or somewhere.
It's probably like ancient India.
Yeah, they actually put their pen down. They put down whatever they're doing. You're buying something. They'll put their hands in the namaste position
Yeah.
and say, kapun ka or whatever.
Or sawadee ka.
Sawadee ka.
It might be
It's-
different also.
yeah.
I mean, one of the things is because it is a tourist-friendly country, and I'm not sure how much of this is because there's so many tourists, or do they do this to everyone within their own people? I don't know. But,
Yeah.
we've been there 3 times, 4 times, whatever. But, yeah, it is something across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, most people, like even people who are doing something else will put down their things, and then they will,
Yeah.
say sawadee ka, and they will bow their head slight bit.
Yeah, and it's totally appropriate to reciprocate that. I think people are very okay with, they don't think it's weird for you to be saying it back to them. They like that, I think. Just a few cultural tips is that unlike India, Thais don't really get angry in public. I guess in some ways in India you do, in some ways you don't. But in India, it's kind of okay to make a scene if someone's ripping you off, or the taxi driver or someone's bargaining with you and they're ripping you off. But it's not that way in Thailand.
No.
It's very polite. It's best to avoid showing too much anger or being loud. Just move on,
Yeah, and bargaining is good. It depends upon where you're at, of course. If you have learned the art of bargaining as a Westerner, then there are contexts. But for Indian public, I think there is bargaining, just the same way as here. But Indians already know how to bargain. Examples such as like you don't bargain at a mall, or you don't bargain at a brand name store and such that you're already aware of. But in a night market or in any other like street vendors, it's okay to bargain. Food is not usually bargained, as you already know. There is also ready-made food that is sold in Thailand, like rice, whatever, meat and veggies together in a pack. So if you want that, that's a cheaper option. One other thing to mention is the 7-Elevens are everywhere in Thailand. 7-Eleven is like a convenience store. It's a place where you can go and buy your necessary items, all the way from Coke to medicine to anything that you need that you've forgotten back home. And you can also get food there, actually, with cheap food, like 30, 40 baht, 50 baht.
So just in general about language culture, it doesn't have as many rough edges as India does. It feels easier to travel, to get around. There's not as much crowd. There's just not as much noise. And there is pollution, but not as bad. Do you want to talk about a pretty important cultural point is the king?
The king, yeah. In general, without making too many remarks, is that king is highly respected, and I believe it is unlawful to say anything against the royal family and their relatives. So pretty much everyone who's in the king's family and the way they run the country is usually not talked about in public. So yeah, so just avoid and be respectful towards the royal family. The previous king Bhumidol, the 9th, Rama IX, was highly revered, probably the most revered king in the modern times. So yeah, and he really has built the country, helped build the country to what it is today, and a lot of people like him. So yeah, just be aware of that.
So next topic is getting around. In Bangkok, the BTS is their metro system. It's so easy. It's so clean. Around the country, Grab Taxi is what they use, so you can download that app.
Yeah, there's no Uber, people. Grab, Uber sold all of their stocks or whatever, and then they actually took over Grab, or the Grab took over Uber. So there's no Uber, only Grab.
Walking is really easy compared to India, just less crowd, dirt. Pollution is there for sure, so you might want a mask. Air pollution is there for sure, so you might want a mask. Tuk-tuk is their version of an auto rickshaw, but unlike India, they are not necessarily cheaper than a taxi. Sometimes they actually...
There's no bargaining much either.
Yeah, they don't bargain much. They know tourists want to ride on the tuk-tuk because it's a famous thing, and so they'll charge you a lot. So sometimes it's just cheaper to take a taxi.
Yeah, and one important thing that we forgot to mention earlier was that most people do not speak English or understand English. So that is one of the most difficult things about Thailand is a lot of things are not written in English. Like if you say, for example, you decided that you don't want to take tuk-tuk because it's too expensive for whatever reason, which is not going to be the case because you're going there for tourism and you have the money. But I mean, in general, if you don't really want to take tuk-tuk or metro or whatever, it will be very difficult for you to actually ride in the public bus because none of the buses are written in English where they're going, and any of the passengers will not be able to tell you where this bus is going and where you need to go. It will become a very frustrating thing. Unless other tourists are going, I would say just stick with BTS or MRT, BTS and MRT train lines, and tuk-tuk and grab taxis and other types of taxis that are available.
Next topic is temples and mosques. There are so many temples around Thailand, which you'll find really interesting. Mostly Buddhist temples, which are open to the public. Indians really shouldn't have any problem visiting, because generally Indians instinctively know how to behave in a temple. You instinctively know not to wear skimpy clothes, short pants, shouldering the shoulders, instinct of not getting in people's faces when they're praying or meditating, not taking too many pictures. As far as temples, don't miss Wat Pho and Wat Arun in Bangkok. Those are the biggest temples. There are a number of monasteries you can visit. Just look at TripAdvisor and they can probably tell you more than we can. There are mosques around the country, everywhere. I unfortunately don't know much about that, but one way you could find out would be to contact the Muslim community there. Or in Bangkok, go to Nana, Nana, and ask from a local Indian or Bangladeshi or Arab Muslim.
Medical tourism. It is
Yeah.
a great spot for Indians to go and get any treatment that you'd like, including cosmetic and other dental treatments.
Anything, really.
Anything really, yeah. They were even doing like gender reassignments. But anyway, so medical tourism is popular. There are a number of hospitals. One of the well-known one is Bumrungrad, which is in Asok.
In Bangkok.
In Bangkok. And also, it is going to be more expensive, most likely, than India. At least more expensive than most places in India. But it is going to be much cheaper than Western hospitals. Most of the doctors are trained in the West and in Thailand. And it's very clean, great infrastructure. And I think, you would find there pretty much many of their clients come from Western countries or developed Arab countries. So yeah, it's a great place to go for medical treatment.
Yeah, one stat that I found online from 2011 said that 500,000 people every year visit Thailand for medical tourism. That's 5 lakh people. But it actually has to be way more than that because just Bumrungrad itself has 500,000 patients every year from abroad. So it's a lot of people that are coming to do this. And overall, it's cleaner, it's less crowded. The hospitals are cleaner, less crowded than India, and it may be something to consider. Okay, next topic. Let's talk about beaches.
Yeah, other places outside of Bangkok. So of course, there are some very famous beach places, and in the beach places, there are some party beach places, and then there are some more quiet or family-oriented beach places, and probably every known beach place has both. Some of those beaches, because a place like Phuket, which is an island within Thailand, has multiple beaches. Some beaches are probably going to be more party-oriented, which means there's a lot of music, a lot of drinking, a lot of people just being crazy. And then other places might be better suited for kids and for families to relax on the beach. So you would have to just look into that, where you would like to go. But Phuket has some great places. There's James Bond Island, PP Island, which is beautiful. There's also Krabi, PP Island, and the Monkey Island and those areas near in Phuket. We also have been to another beach place called Koh Samet, and Koh Samet was very nice. It's only about 4 hours drive and ferry ride from Bangkok, so it's a great place if you have limited amount of time and you just want to go somewhere close to Bangkok. There's also Hua Hin. Mm-hmm. From my research, the beaches in Koh Samet were the best as far as swimming and hanging out is concerned.
Yeah, Pattaya is also really popular. there's a really different kind of beauty that you're not going to get anywhere in India, not even Goa, at the Thailand beaches. There's so much to do, but one downfall is that you're getting away from Indian restaurants. So there's not a lot of Indian restaurants generally in the beach places, so you have to be aware of that. Now let's talk about swimming. So, if you're not a big swimmer, which a lot of Indian people are not, some are, and hats off to you if you know swimming, that's wonderful. But if you don't, it's good, enjoy the shallow water of the beaches and the swimming pools. And a tip, one of the best things to do in Thailand is to go snorkeling. But if you don't know swimming, it's going to be very scary for you. So because they actually put you out in the middle of the ocean and you have to jump off the boat into the ocean. It even for me, who I've known how to swim since I was 2 years old, it's a bit scary just to be out in the middle of the ocean. You're wearing a life jacket, but just let the instructor, the guy know who is managing it, just let him know that I don't really know swimming. So sometimes they'll have a rope that you can hold on to, or they'll have a little floating device you can hold on to, because this is really something you don't want to miss, is the snorkeling. It's pretty amazing. My suggestion is also to try snorkeling ahead of time in the pool and get used to the breathing apparatus, trying to figure that out, how to breathe through the tube. Another thing about Thailand is the sun is very bright and hot, and the skies are more clear than India, so you will get burnt or your color will change a lot, which I know a lot of people are really concerned about, is like, मैं काली हो जाऊंगी, काला हो जाऊंगा, So that's a concern, and you should wear a hat, you should wear long sleeves, you should wear sunscreen, because get burned or have your color changed because the sun is very bright. Last few tips is something you might not know, is that there's actually a lot of animal abuse and human trafficking that takes place as a result of tourism. Being aware and not supporting animal abuse is a suggestion. Elephant riding is a big thing, but it's actually a really cruel practice. And aquariums with whale shows, elephant shows, they're, forcing these animals to do all these tricks. It's just pretty cruel the way that they train them and all this stuff. There's a lot of research, you can Google it, about elephant riding and how bad it is. So just be aware that, it's not like necessarily like India, where these animals are being kind of living in the jungle and, having free life. It's not really like that. And also for human trafficking, you may or may not know that there is a lot of sex tourism which takes place in Thailand. Many of these people who are here are not here necessarily by choice. Some of them are trying to escape poverty. Some of them have been sold by their parents or relatives to be there. Some people are from different countries who've been trafficked, and they're not necessarily living in these brothels because they're just trying to make extra money. So it is somewhat like India in that sense, that this is not really, in our opinion, something that you want to support or take part of. It's quite a mess, and it creates a lot of problems in the society. So we encourage people not to necessarily participate in that kind of stuff. Overall, we recommend Thailand. We think it's fantastic. What else do we have to add? Any last tips?
No, I think that covers most of the things that we wanted to say. There's a lot more to think about. There's a lot more to talk about, but these are some of the things that we thought would be helpful for South Asian tourists. All the best if you're ever planning to visit Thailand, and some of this might even apply in Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos and some of those countries. So yeah, just be aware. Cheers.